Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Mariner Spirits. Excuse me. I had a brain fart there for a minute. Anyway, welcome to Mariner Spirit. I'm Greg, and I'm your host. And to start it off, I would like to mention a few things. And, this is our third episode of this year, so we're on a roll already. And we've had a lot of great people last year, the year before that, and 2-3 years before that. So what I do want to mention is the fact of who I support. And I support Pottergraphs with Tim Miley, and that was created when Tim lost his pooch and didn't know where he was going to go from there, and decided that he was going to go. And he had a picture of himself in his pooch, and made copies of it and went to one of the Paracons. And this was quite some time ago now. And decided to try to sell them, and did such a good job that he went on to go ahead and have his own booth at the Paracons. And then finally he is his own entity where he goes ahead and goes around and gets certain people together that are speakers, and has his own events. And that way everything goes to Pottergraphs. And he's a great guy, and I look up to him immensely as far as his go-to-ativeness. So that's the first one. The other one is PKC, Paranormal Kicks Cancer, and it's Chris Gaskowski and Alex Wilkinson from down in Florida. And they've been working on fundraisers for cancer research now. I want to say I met him back in maybe 16, 17, something like that, at Old South, Pittsburgh. So since then, they've been going strong, and they're great people. And if you get an opportunity to run into one of their events, please help out. It's a great cause too. And thirdly is the Jessica Petrie Foundation. And for those who don't know who Jessica Petrie was, she was the daughter of Howard Petrie from Paranormal United Network. And what her foundation is, or what is a resource for expecting mothers and families and persons that are pregnant and have mental illness. So those are the three ones there. And then I would mention my authors that I try to go ahead and mention every time. And we're just going to go down the list real fast because I want to get to my guest. Authors are Heatherly Langdon, Ron Iacovetti, Lynn Monet, Dr. Rebecca Foster, Bruce Holliday, Rex Nielsen, and Rex has got another book that just broke yesterday on Amazon, Todd Bates, and that's it. We don't have to go any farther than that, and it's a pleasure to bring on this amazing gentleman, Mr. Sam Baltrusis, who is I've been trying to meet him for I don't know how many years now, and I keep on failing miserably, but I'm always at the wrong spots at the wrong time. Sam, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me on. I definitely appreciate bringing on. And I also appreciate that you mentioned all the names that you did in the intro, because some of those people are my friends. So, and a lot of amazing authors like Ron Iacovetti, who actually is at the event that I'm currently at this weekend at the Hanover Paracon in right outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Well, you get the opportunity to say hi to him for me.
I will.
I didn't mention you as an author, because if I did that, I'd have a list about that long, wouldn't I? You 14 books, right?
No, 17 altogether. Yeah, and I'm working. Yeah, 17, and I'm currently working on number 18 right now.
How do you get all the time to write all those books?
So I was a journalist for about 20 years or so. So I writing was pretty normal for me, but writing paranormal themed books is a whole other can of worms. So it's my passion really. I've done a lot of other projects like television and that sort of thing. But for me, the writing the books is my true passion in the paranormal field. So it's not necessarily that I don't really have the time, but I kind of make the time because it's something that brings me a lot of joy.
Oh, that's awesome. And I haven't had the opportunity to read any of your work yet, but I would go ahead and tell you this, that it's going to be on the horizon for me, because it's something. You're another one of these people that once I have them on the show, I sort of get attached to them in a way, and books are the best way to go ahead and learn about a person by how they write. So
Yeah, my style definitely. So it's changed over the 17 books. When I first started, I was my first book was called Ghosts of Salem, and it's part of the History Press Haunted America series. And then the one that I'm known for the most is called Ghosts of Salem. So a lot of the books I write are very regional, which makes sense that you haven't read some of my books because it's all very New England, the books that I write. But I have expanded out, beyond that. I've done Ghosts of the American Revolution, which focuses on a lot of areas like Philadelphia and a lot of the areas outside of New England, but also New England too, because there's a lot of ghosts of the American Revolution. And I also did a book called Related to Evil, and it's my family ties on my mom's side to. I'm related to Lizzie Borden, and so that was a shocker. And that's so the later books. The first books were more geographic, and the books that I've been writing lately are more. People from all over can read them.
that's awesome. Do you have any extra time to do anything else besides write your books?
Yeah, I mean, so I do a lot actually. So I'm one of those people that every minute is pretty much taken. It's like accounted for. So I work the overnight shift at a hotel, and so that's something what I've done actually is I've turned that experience into books. I worked at a really haunted inn called Concord's Colonial Inn, and I worked there for about 6 months and actually turned it into one of my more recent books called Ghosts of Concord's Colonial Inn, and that's right by the beginnings of the American Revolution, where the Battle of Lexington and Concord took place. And it was wonderful immersing myself at the location. So I kind of combine usually my jobs with my writing, so it kind of works in tandem. I do a lot of speaking engagements. I speak all over the country, and I also do documentaries and television work too.
So your TV work, that's what, a haunting and
So I was on season 10 of A Haunting, but I was also a producer on season 11, and I've done probably about 20 other shows. I did like Fright Club, I did haunted towns, I did Forbidden History. I've done pretty much anything on Salem. Like I've done like Salem and Ghost. I've been on the show representing the area.
so your impression of Salem, how, if you were going to sum it up, how is Salem?
Well, it's been a passion of mine for many years. So Salem is a dichotomy of energies. Of course, you have the Salem witch trials that happened in 1692, where 20 innocent men and women were accused and executed for witchcraft. So that's sort of the tragedy. But then you have Halloween. It's the most popular Halloween destination probably in America. So you have thousands of people flocking to the location where 20 people were executed 300 years ago. So it's kind of this weird dichotomy of, Halloween fun coupled with a severe tragedy that left a psychic stain on the land. So I feel like it's sort of I love Salem, but I also feel really kind of guilty and drained in Salem too. So so it's one of those things that I think it's important for us to know the history, but also it's a fun place to go for Halloween too. So I just kind of a mixed feeling, it's sort of like a great place to go, but it's also tragic as well.
In the paranormal community, how would you title yourself or explain yourself? as an author, or?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, a paranormal researcher too. I mean, like I'm a historian that has written about really, locations that a lot of people visit. That's my, but I also identify as a clairvoyant as well. So it's one of those things. I'm a medium. When I did a Curse of Lizzie Borden, which was a shock doc that kind of came out of the crystal closet with my abilities, and it's something that I have done kind of on the down low. If you've done events with me, you would know this, but people that haven't done events with me, they didn't know. So it was one of those things that. So I've come out about that, and actually teach a group of students called Spirit Squad, and it's a group of up and coming empaths and mediums in how to paranormal investigate using your abilities.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I did spot that, and I was going to mention it in a little bit, but as long as you brought it up and you mentioned it that way, it makes more sense than what I was looking at. And that's really cool. How many people do you hold a session?
So we've had sessions. So it's I would say about 45 people altogether, but it's a rotating group, very selective. So when I travel all over the country, I go to these conventions, and when I go, I usually find one person that joins Spirit Squad, and it's kind of I want the one person that sort of feels they have abilities, but they're really not sure how to fine tune those abilities, and looking for people that are looking for a group of people that support people unconditionally, which is what our group does. And so it's more of a group of empaths that share experiences, and I talk about my experience out in the field, specifically working with the paranormal, the spirits that we encounter along the way on our adventures. So yeah, it's a small group, but I want to kind of keep it small because I think that's what makes it special.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's got to almost be homey about it.
Yeah, and we do we have sessions. They're all on Zoom, and I have people from all over the country that are part of the group. Then we also do Spirit Squad weekends where we go to a location. The last one we did was we did one in Gettysburg at the Farnsworth House Inn, which was a haunted location. It was very cold, and what we do is we have workshops at these locations. So we have people that specialize in different techniques like the Estes method. We have people that focus on psychometry and tarot card reading. So it's kind of a workshop for people that have abilities that really don't know how to necessarily apply those abilities to haunted locations.
And when you said Estes, that's what I do more than anything else. And that's because I was led off my direction as far as a medium was concerned, a psychic medium, and it's for myself to be able to speak to my own guides.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I found that when it all went down, it was like another mini awakening as far as everything that I was doing. And, it was, I felt I was blessed to a certain extent. And that's the kind of thing that you must have all the time in your groups where people just get crazy with excitement, don't they?
They're excited. It's sort of like finally somebody understands me. It's like one of the and a lot of stuff that goes along with being an empath. If it's extreme emotions. So if you're feeling the emotions of other people, like in a room or in a crowded room, sometimes it translates as anxiety or sometimes you don't want to be in a large group because you're anxious and you realize, hey, it's a gift. It's not a curse. So it's more of a feeling of acceptance and a feeling of understanding. And I wouldn't say they're crazy excited, but they're crazy excited to be a part of a group of like-minded people who have gone through the same things.
They don't have to worry about anything when you're in a group like that. You're one of them.
Right, and everyone supports each other. It's not because a lot in the paranormal field, as you probably know, there's a lot of backstabbing and some bad things that people do to each other. But there's a lot of good too, and I think that this group is an example of a really good group that supports each other.
That is awesome, and kudos to you creating and bringing it about because that's the kind of thing for some of the people that are in the chat tonight to be able to go ahead and see that, and have an opportunity if they do want to expand and they don't want to stay as local as that. This would be a great opportunity for them to go exactly where they want to go. So Becky Evans says she's so exciting to get to be part of Sam's Spirit Squad.
Yeah, so Becky and I, so we actually met at the Haygood Mill events, and we've been friends ever since. So Becky has been part of Spirit Squad, so she is part of the group, and Becky can attest that it's a very supportive group of people. And so Becky was, I do a yearly event called Mass Paracon at rotating locations throughout Massachusetts, and Becky was the volunteer there. She said she was able to meet a lot of the Spirit Squad members in person, and it was so special. It was a loving, supportive group of people that and Becky is a part of that. So good to see you, Becky.
Yeah, it's gonna be a surprise in a little bit here too.
Oh, good.
But there's so many neat people, and that's what's neat about this group is the fact that I have a group of psychic mediums that I do on Monday night, and this is through Scotty Rourke.
Oh, cool.
So I think Scotty, right?
I know who he is. Yeah, I don't know if I've met him in person, but I do know who he is.
And he's been my mentor for probably 4 years now. And I was tickled pink when I first started out, and I still am to a certain extent. But there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with it too.
There is, yeah, especially in the spirit realm, because for me, it's like I feel like it's giving a voice to those without a voice. So I tend to gravitate toward the spirits that are often overlooked by history, whether they're people of color or women or children or those who have been marginalized, like the Salem witch trials, the innocent people that were accused of witchcraft. So I tend to gravitate towards those spirits and try to give them a voice, but sometimes there's a pressure of getting it wrong. Like I get kind of bombarded once I came out as a medium on Curse of Lizzie Borden. It's sort of like people will message me like, well, what's your impressions of this? And truthfully, it's a kind of a blessing and a curse. I didn't necessarily want to go public with it. Because you get a lot of people that you get the naysayers too. You get people that are like, oh, so and so is a fake medium, and it's like, you know what, go out in the field with me. I'll show you. But it's just one of those things that there's a lot that goes with it.
I agree with you 100% on that. That's one of the big things today is, and I don't know why these people just have all this extra time to go ahead and waste it, okay, on trying to go ahead and tear somebody apart, because that's not right either. The whole paranormal community is based on love and light, to me, and you got to go ahead and carry it on. That's all.
I agree with that, and I think a lot of sometimes people get caught up in whether it's jealousy or other things, or like wanting to be famous or whatever their motivation is. But I feel like that what we've done is the people that really are trying to do good things stick together, and you'll see the clusters of people that support each other, like Spirit Squad, and like we all kind of find each other. We all kind of the people that truly walk in the light do somehow find each other, and it's important for us to not dim our light for those who try to dim it.
Before we go ahead and ask the next question, I want to go through and say hello to all these people, please.
Absolutely.
And we got Carol Garcia, we got Becky Evans, we got Charlie, we have Danny Botts, Kimmy Corpse, Sally Bright, Adriana Trudell, and Annie Depp. Is that?
Yeah, she's a part of Spirit Squad.
Is she a relative of Johnny?
No, that's just that. I think that's her stage name. That's her psychic name.
Okay, and then you got Tammy Christine Radin, and let's see, Kimmy Corpse, Annie, Robert Thomas Cole, Jamie Lynn Keller, and Robert Thomas Cole, and then Tabitha, I can't talk tonight. Meadows, Tabitha.
Yeah, Tabitha.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's also joining Spirit Squad coming up at the end. The next session starts January 30th.
Okay, so then we're going to go to the next section, and I'm going to bring somebody up here because we had it arranged so that.
Hey, Sam.
Hey, how's it going?
He invited me on, so
I thought she would be more helpful on the questions, especially as far as the East Coast are concerned, because of her being involved with you and during the last Paracon and that. So, if you got any questions, Becky.
Well, I know Sam has a lot of events coming up, and I know, Sam, I know you had posted of quite a few. What are your events coming up?
So Becky, as you probably know, there's so much, but yeah, the events. So there's events that I go to, and there's events that I'm running. So you were part of Mass Paracon. The big one is going to be Mass Paracon coming up in October, the first weekend in October. So it rotates throughout Massachusetts. So this one's going to be in Fairhaven, which is a stone's throw from the Lizzie Borden bed and breakfast. So it's close to Fall River. In fact, we're not going to go to the actual murder location, but the goal is to have the investigation related to Lizzie Borden. So that's coming up in October. We have Ghost Writers Weekend, which is coming up the first weekend of April. And that's going to be at Stockbridge, which is in the Berkshires of Massachusetts. And that's for up and coming writers, but also people are going to give lectures. And then we also have Spirit Squad Weekend, which is coming up in Waynesboro, PA, which is right outside of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and that's going to be in August.
Awesome.
So it's not unusual to have people from across the United States join the Spirit, is it?
No, we have people all over the country. Yeah. So Becky. So there's a lot of. We have Arizona. Becky was in Washington. Now she's in Alabama. Well, maybe not right now, but you were in Alabama. And then we have people, all over the country. So it's, but I would say as far as there's a lot of people in New England, and Annie, who's a part of the group, she's actually in Pennsylvania. We have some people in Virginia. So they're all over the country.
Very much.
So, you have another question, Beck?
Oh, no, he's answered a lot of the questions I did write down just in case you asked me to ask questions.
How to the point are the classes?
Well, I mean, so I would say it's more of a support group. I mean, when I say classes, it's more, you do learn stuff, but it's more about a group of people that are similar. And we do talk about like the clairs, for example, okay. We talk about techniques that we use to work the muscle. And then some people, what happens in the group, you'll find people kind of gravitate toward, so like someone may identify as clairvoyant, or someone may be more empathic, which Becky, I'm getting it is more empathic, but you're still kind of working the muscle as far as your gifts. And I think there's other stuff that you had to deal with before you could kind of like work on your psychic mediumship work. But I mean, you're definitely gifted. It's just sort of like how fast you go. I'm a big believer in taking it slow and steady. And you also find that when you get a group together, that each person in the group amplifies the other person's gifts. So if I'm with Spirit Squad, maybe I normally clairvoyant, which is you can it's seeing with clarity. Sorry, I'm a little tired. But then you have you basically have other people that have like that are clairvoyants or are clairaudient, which they can actually hear spirits communicating to them. So sometimes you'll have other people in the group, other clairs will emerge because we're kind of working together, almost like a together to create whatever, like amplifying our abilities together.
It's like we bounce off each other, and
exactly.
Everybody comes together, and if one person feels like they're not getting it, it's like the other person joins in and helps Sam kind of everybody kind of gets together like a team and
Mhm.
joins in, and everybody is like helping each other, and like you said, a support group. And that's the best thing about this group, is not nobody rushing. It's like everybody supporting and just being part of a family. It's
Right.
more of a family, not like a rushed you got to do this, you got to do that. It's more, it's homely, and everybody's a family type situation, and it's a loving situation, and everybody that I've met so far has welcomed me with open arms and has supported me through the situation I'm going through now and through everything else. It's just a tremendous family, and I consider them family, not friends. They're more family than anything else.
And to add to that, Becky, so so Becky has the GoFundMe currently, and I'll tell you, Spirit Squad definitely they helped out, and we're definitely we all come from different parts of the country, and all of us do, but they really, when it came to you, they really supported you, and so I'm really proud of them for doing that.
100%. And I appreciated it, and I still appreciate it. And that I just, all the bills coming up, I just keep sharing it, and I've got more people sharing my post out. So I'm hoping and praying that everything works out. But I appreciate it, and stepping up for my dad too while I've been in my situation. It has been tough, but I keep pushing forward, and I got 5 days, and then hopefully this will be done and over with. So
And just to use my mediumship, I do feel I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's been a rough month or longer, but I do feel that this is sort of something that had to eventually be resolved, and it's being resolved now, and it's going to make you stronger, Becky. And
yeah.
I've been, when you first wanted to move back home, I there was like reservation, and I'm like, yeah, I think you should do it. You should do it. And you get there, and then this happens. So it's sort of like, wah, wah, it's sort of like, what, like, why did this happen? But I do feel that it's going to make you stronger, and it's going to ultimately be a blessing, and you may not see it yet.
Okay, I appreciate
that's
that.
for sure. I think I mentioned your whole name too, Becky, didn't I? To everybody.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did.
Because I just want to make sure everybody in the chat knows your full name. That's for sure. Now, when we talked about, or you brought up the Ghosts of Sleepy Hollow, Sam.
Yeah.
How long did you work on that one?
Well, I'm working on it now, so I'm actually writing it. I've written the first couple of chapters. It's actually due in May, and it's coming out in September. So it's the book that I'm currently working on.
You got any real teasers that you can throw out there about it?
Well, I mean, so it's a work in progress. When I start a book, it's a work in progress, but it's definitely one of those projects. It's a labor of love, and I going. I live in Boston, or right outside of Boston.
Right.
So going to Sleepy Hollow, I've been going pretty much almost every other weekend to do research. Has been a little overwhelming, but I do love that area, so it's been a fun experience going there to do the experience. I will say that a lot of the Sleepy Hollow ghosts are so Sleepy Hollow is a Halloween destination, very much like Salem is. And if you know the legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is the headless horseman, it's sort of the iconic Halloween monster that everyone kind of grew up with knowing. So it's an important story. But the difference between Salem, there's a lot of similarities to Salem and Sleepy Hollow. They're both Halloween destinations. They both kind of brand their Halloween, their ghosts in their sort of like Salem is the witch city, and the headless horseman is Sleepy Hollow's sort of like mascot, if you will. But then you have a lot of differences, and the thing is, Sleepy Hollow doesn't have the same kind of tragic history that Salem has, but they do. The ghost of Sleepy Hollow, I feel, are what we call thought forms. So almost like that they were created by telling a story over and over again. Almost creates spirits or energies or manifestations. And I think that you'll see in Sleepy Hollow that a lot of the spirits aren't like disembodied souls, but they're actually creations of telling a story over and over again, and almost kind of creating a headless horseman, if you will.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Did you not get so upset last time you went to Lizzie's house? That's from a Joanne Stewart.
Well, I was on a show called Curse of Lizzie Borden, and so that when I was on the show, I channeled during the show, and so it was a very emotional thing. So the woman that I was channeling was Eliza Borden. Eliza Borden murdered her children, so she's going to be super emotional. So yeah, it was on camera. I was crying the whole time. Like it was, I wasn't crying. I was actually channeling a woman that murdered her children, the guilt that she had, that she's been holding on in the afterlife. But yeah, but I went there about a year ago with Spirit Squad, and actually wasn't emotional at all. So it really, like when you're doing the work and you're actually channeling, and it's letting the spirit use you as a vessel to get out that emotion.
Yeah, I know. I don't pick up too many emotions when I do it, but I find out that later on that some of the things that I've said, it's like, holy crap, if I really said what they're telling me I said, it makes me feel bad because it had people involved in it and things like that. So I can see how that would have affected you that way. And it's great to see. Oh boy. Excuse me. Should have turned it off right off the bat. I could see how it would have. Hopefully that.
Yeah, we hear you, Greg.
I'm going to go throw the phone away, okay? Put it in the
No,
bathtub of water. I apologize, Sam.
Like, don't flush it down the toilet or anything. It's like throw your phone. Well, I mean, so just to fill you in, so like just to add to that, like so it's not my emotion. That's the whole thing. Like so when you're channeling, it's the spirit's emotion. So it's like when someone said you got really upset. Yeah, I was crying for her, but it wasn't. I didn't feel it. I did when I got out of the trance when I was channeling, and that was a very deep trance channel session. So it was a very deep connection with Eliza. I had tears down my face and my eyes were swollen, but I don't cry like that. Like that's not my emotion. So it was her emotion.
Yeah, that's hard to handle. I apologize for that phone going off. I just hit the wrong button.
Oh, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it.
Oh man.
We actually didn't notice.
They want to be on the show. They want to ask a question.
I don't think that was the case. It's from the Wraith Hunters.
Oh, okay.
That's one of the groups that I belong to.
Oh, okay. They're probably wanting you to go investigate.
No, they want us to have a meeting, I think. But
oh, okay.
They know I'm on, so that's no biggie. So, have you had any interest in doing any other sections of the country?
Yeah. I mean, I traveled all over the country to investigate. I did the Sally House. So I've investigated all over the country. So yes, I do have interest in going. But as far as writing books about it, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of. I'm a big believer in immersion journalism, so I do want to be able to write about locations that I can visit regularly. So the only books that I've written that were other spots throughout the country. I did a book called Fueled by Fear, and that's where I actually went to the Sally House in Kansas. I investigated the Hinsdale House in New York, and then also the Conjuring House in Rhode Island. So I have done other. I have investigated all over.
Out of all those ones that you did, You didn't do Velisca Axe Murder House, right?
I didn't, and the thing is, and I actually, when I investigated two of those locations that I just mentioned, the Sally House, those were really red flag locations for me. So there were locations that terrified me for many years. When it gets down to actually investigating locations, I'm actually chicken, to be bluntly honest with you, because I like there's certain things that I'm worried about. I've had an attachment that nearly killed me, so there's a fear of going to locations that I think maybe. When I say active, they're not necessarily active by original ghosts, but by what people bring into these locations. I attract it, so it's more like fear of protecting myself. But Velisca, I don't want to. Especially now with the new owners, I don't necessarily want to go. But I traveled with Richard Estep, who wrote a book about Velisca, so I am interested in it. But I'm also a little wary of it because I do know that there's stuff there that is not necessarily original to the house, but may have been brought in by other investigators.
Right. That's for sure. We were laying on the living room floor. We went to bed about 4:00 in the morning, and we just decided we were going to sleep on the living room floor. And all we had was pretty much used our sweatshirts and everything for like a little mini pillow. And we were just asleep when there was this giant bang. And everybody that was on the floor jumped up, just went straight up in the air about 2 feet. And it was like, what in heaven's name was that? And I think it was just whoever that spirit was that was letting us know that they knew that we were there and they didn't like it.
Well, getting to like what I think is going on there, is it really a spirit? Is it something else? Is it something that has been brought in by other investigators that have conjured something or left their own baggage at that location? So that's the thing with Velisca. I feel strongly that what's there is not the spirits of the people that were murdered there or even the killer. I think it's something else.
Yeah, that's one of those locations. That's for sure. That's really. Have you been out to the West Coast?
I have, yeah. I definitely have. I have done. Well, I've done Arizona. I did Vulture City, and I've done. So in my book Related to Evil, one of the people that I'm related to actually turns out to be Marilyn Monroe as well. So I'm actually planning to do locations that are related to Marilyn Monroe, hopefully in 2024.
Wow, that's really something, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting because I didn't know this family tie until my mother did Ancestry.com, and once we were able to kind of find the tie to Lizzie Borden and also to the Putnam family, we were able to find actually because we didn't know Marilyn Monroe's biological father, like what was listed versus what we thought was, and the one that actually turns out biologically actually ties Marilyn Monroe not only to me but also to Lizzie Borden as well, which was a huge bombshell.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's really something.
It's pretty cool.
That's for sure. I know a lot of when you did the Ghosts of Concord. Now that's all Revolutionary War, right?
It is, but the Ghost of Concord's Colonial Island was I worked the overnight shift there, so it was about it was Revolutionary War, but it was also debunking some historical inaccuracies that have been tied to that location, including like the most. It's considered one of the most haunted inns in America, and it is very haunted. But the thing is, Room 24. It's always said that it was a surgery room during the American Revolution, and the thing is that Room 24 and Room 27, which now is said to be a morgue during the Revolution, didn't exist in the 1700s. It actually was built in 1820. So it was a big part of the book was sort of debunking the inaccuracies that were perpetuated by paranormal investigating teams that have been on television and other publications that just are not historically. So there a lot of talking about the ghost, but also debunking a lot of the inaccuracies too.
So that's really, really something, compared to what we've all been taught. Have you gotten more into the history end of it?
I've always been in the history part of it. Yeah,
Okay.
so like that, like I was a journalist for many years, and so when I was a journalist, my dad was a history teacher, so that definitely, so history has been a part of my life since I was a kid. But the mediumship part of it, actually, what's tough with the mediumship is I can't do the research before I go to a location. It's important for me to kind of read it cold and let the ghosts guide me. But once I'm able to go in and actually read the location, I can validate with what I'm picking up with actual historical facts. And, so getting back to Concord's Colonial Inn, I definitely picked up stuff that would say that the room 24 we had possibly had a nurse and a wounded soldier. But the thing is, that room did not exist during the American Revolution. So that kind of puts a weird twist on it. I'm able to say, like, hey, I'm picking up on a nurse. Why is there a nurse here when it didn't exist? But maybe because people have created this nurse by telling the story and investigating it and asking for the nurse. So I guess this whole conversation has been a lot about what I feel are pseudo hauntings or thought forms.
Okay, so out of all these books that you've done, what are your, say, 3 most favorite characters?
Well, they're not really characters; they're actual real people that I've written about.
Historical people.
Yeah, so I think that when it comes to the books that I've written, Ghosts of Salem is probably my bestseller, and that's the one that I'm known for. I think the characters as in ghost or characters as in, like people because I also interview real people too. So
it's
I interview,
up to how you take it, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. So I think as far as the people that really interest me the most, I mean, like probably my relatives. I mean, people that I'm connected to. Lizzie Borden is really interesting to me, even though I always kind of viewed her as almost like a caricature. But now that I know I'm distantly related to her, I see a whole different side to her. So Lizzie Borden is probably on top of the list. Another person that I'm connected to historically that's in my books are the Putnam family. So Ann Putnam Jr., was one of the accusers during the Salem witch trials, accused 62 people of witchcraft. She's the only one that actually apologized for accusing innocent people of witchcraft. I find her definitely really interesting. And then I find basically the ones that you wouldn't think. Ben Franklin. So when I wrote the Ghosts of the American Revolution, I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia retracing Ben Franklin's steps, and he's just someone that I love Ben Franklin, and just sort of I'm really fascinated with him.
Have you ever heard that story about inside his house he had a tenant that was a doctor, and they had a whole bunch of bones that were somehow buried either in the basement or in the backyard, that this doctor that was living in his house had actually gone ahead and, like cadavers, and had gone ahead and done whatever experiments he was doing on them, and then literally took them and buried them. So then they went ahead and supposedly got a hold of Franklin and tried to go ahead and ask him about it. And then they finally found out it was this doctor. Have you ever heard about that one?
I have, but I haven't really dug into that story to be able but when it comes to actually see if it's truth, it's based on truth, or if it's just conjecture. But I'm assuming it is. But I haven't dug into that story to be able to comment on it. But when I did trace Ben Franklin, it was more about kind of finding the locations where his ghost has been spotted, and it's mainly in Philadelphia. And I went to the museum, the Ben Franklin Museum, and there was what there's an outside area that showed his house in Philadelphia, and then what the ruins of his house. And you can look down kind of like this like glass encasement, and it was the toilet. So you can see Ben Franklin's toilet. And I remember looking, and if you kind of know Ben Franklin's sense of humor, he was a potty mouth. He definitely had a kind of a wicked sense of humor. And so I was looking down in the toilet. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's Ben Franklin's toilet. And I heard a voice in the left of my ear saying, like that's where George Washington relieved himself, you know. And I'm like, what? And I turned around and I'm like, there was nobody there. I'm like, was that Ben Franklin? Because it was kind of like, I thought this guy was like whispering in my ear. So that was like my clear audience, I think, kicking in, but it was kind of funny.
Oh gosh.
So
To hear that.
So maybe I actually encountered Ben Franklin's ghost. I'm not sure.
Probably did.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely was just a funny guy. He was a funny guy.
Tabitha says, does it have to do with the skull and bones? I don't know what that means.
I mean, I don't really know that story to be able to comment on it. So to be honest with you,
I think I know what she's talking about, but that's probably going back to the Freemasons and I think I know what she's talking about. But also, see, Annie had said something about H.H. Holmes.
oh really? Yeah, she could be talking about they could be talking about H.H. Holmes and not Ben Franklin.
Well, if that's the case, we all know how H.H. Holmes was.
Yes.
Have you been to the Barnstable house?
And Cape Cod?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah, I read a book on Provincetown, which is on the tip of Cape Cod, and so I have been there. That was probably about 12 years ago.
Well, the gentleman that asked that question is a friend of mine, and in the town just north of ours, the Barnstable family was, or the remainder of them, or whatever was left from the East Coast, and they're all up here in Northern Illinois, which is pretty crazy. Yeah,
the house was actually on an episode of the Holzer Files, and it's basically on Cape Cod. So it's the whole Cape Cod is a lot of material. Let's put it that way when it comes to like locations. But the Barnstable house, it's office buildings now, so you can't go in to investigate. But if you wanted to, you can probably set something up to be able to visit, to kind of go and to check out the location, which is what I did.
The axe. Oh no, isn't that no? That's Tabitha making a comment pertaining to the house again. But I thought it was. Wait a minute. Okay, here's Azriana says, I thought it was related to the slaves in Somerset, England, pertaining to the skull and bones.
The Barnstable family originated in Somerset, England.
Yeah,
is what Danny Boss put.
Yeah, Danny, that's part of his family too, I think. But he's been around here for quite some time. But so we already talked about the characters. When you go on investigations, do you go in there as a medium?
I do, yeah. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I actually. Well, it's hard not to go as a medium because everybody knows that I am. But I also, I started off not being open about it, to be honest with you. So when I would go to original investigations, like on the U.S. of Salem, which is where I worked for. I worked for a Halloween season back in 2016. There were times when I first started, I wasn't really open about my abilities, but I always but it always kind of came through. So yes, I go in as a medium, but I also like to go and just like participate, like you mentioned the Estes method. To me, the Estes method, I use it all the time. So it's kind of like my go-to method when I go to a location. And it's really like when you're using the Estes method, I think that some people want to say verbatim what they hear on the spirit box. And my approach, and this is Becky knows this from Spirit Squad, it's really important for not only to say what you're hearing, but also what you're picking up as a medium as well. So when I do, I kind of use it to go into a trance-like state, and so I actually get visions while I'm doing the Estes method.
What are your two most profound images that you've picked up under the Estes?
Well, I think that, so the show that I keep talking about, the Curse of Lizzie Borden, that's where I channeled Eliza Borden. Before I investigated the murder house, the location in Fall River, probably about 20 to 30 times before I appeared on that show. And so a lot of one of my most profound Estes method actually was at the Lizzie Borden house before filming the show. And it was all sexual. It was like almost like sexual abuse, which I never really picked up on before when it came to that house. And it was a very disturbing scenario that was happening during the Estes method session. And another time is trying to think of another, pretty much every time I've done the Estes method, it's been profound. So it's kind of hard to pick two times. But I would say another profound time was probably the Hensdale house. I was with Richard Estep, fellow author. We were doing an investigation on the top floor of the Hensdale house in New York. And I was apparently channeling like an aggressive male figure. And so there was dueling Estes going on. So my colleague, Sarah Streamer, she was kind of channeling the woman and I was channeling the male, and the male was super aggressive towards the woman. And I heard the recording and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that, it was, I would never say that stuff. And it was super aggressive.
That happens quite a bit, especially with the channeling end of it.
Yeah.
At least that's the way it's come across for me. And I was really curious if you were going to say anything more about it, because that's exactly the way I was picking it up for a lot of the locations around here and places that we go to. And I have a show on Wednesday night that's called One Spirit Connect, and it's all double Estes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And it goes from, we have people in Minnesota. We have people, Katie Stafford.
Oh, great.
She's on from out in Missouri. And then we have people, when Becky gets going here, she's coming back on too. We have Chris, you know who Chris Carr and Kristen Johnson are from?
I do, yeah. Like we actually, but they're actually in New England, or I don't know if they're still in New England, but they're based in New England. But they were at the Hey Good Mill event too, and they've been at events that I've done in New England.
Yeah, they're really good friends of mine, and they're another couple that comes on and does the show with me.
Yeah, they're both great people.
Yeah, they are, and to have people like that across the country. And my what I was trying to do with that is amplify the spirits because of how far away they are.
Right.
That in between there's got to be a bunch of spirits that just glob on. You know what I mean? And cause that sort of magnification where you wouldn't have that normally.
Yeah, a lot of people think that like if you're like say doing the Estes method and you're at a haunted location, that it's always going to be what's in the room. You can if you work your abilities, you can actually pick up on. You can remote view, so you can actually pick up people. I could do a Estes method and focus on the Velisca, and I could maybe pick up stuff there too. So it's sort of like what you direct your skill set. So if you have the ability to remote view, which I do, Becky, can you remote view?
I actually, there was it was a few weeks ago, before my incident happened, that we did have a Wednesday night session that I was on, and I was a moderator. And a girl was up under doing the Estes. She had a blindfold, and she didn't know, she couldn't hear me. She had her headphones on, but I could feel that she had a spirit around her, and
Yeah.
she reacted at the same time I reacted to the spirit that was right around her.
That was Diana, right?
Yeah. And everybody was, wow. It was like big time. I was like on the spirit to like, leave her alone. And she was like reacting to the spirit to leave her alone. And she still had the headphones on. She still had the blindfold on. She was reacting at the same time as I was reacting to the spirit. It was the strongest sensation I've ever had in my whole life. That was the first time I've ever had that kind of thing happen. But I sometimes can, like I said before, like you said, it'll slowly come to me, and it will. That time, it really came to me like a
It's a
in the
privilege.
head.
It's a privilege to have her on with us,
It
to say the
it
least.
came
And
strong at me, and that spirit was on top of her, like like really strong
I
on
would
her.
I
And
would
it backed
offer,
off. It really backed off of her,
right.
and it left her. It left out the window, and it was gone. She
I
never had it back. It
I would
left her.
offer the same offer to you, Sam. If you ever want to join one of my shows, just get to me. And I mean, all the people that come on are like I said, very, very good at Estes.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I also, I mean, we use it a lot in Spirit Squad. It's like a big part of our Spirit Squad journey, and I think that kind of training people in the group to be able to go to the next level with it is something that I'm really good at. I also channel too, so I have to be careful. You have to be careful that I pick up attachment, so like the spirit that kind of they gravitate toward you while you're under. So I like to have someone with me while I'm doing the Estes method. So usually someone that's a Reiki practitioner to kind of like tap me out once I go under, because it can be potentially dangerous, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
We've been running by the seat of our pants now for, like, I think it's right around, this is our third year, and it's every week. So there's a lot involved there. I want to go ahead and have one final question.
Sure.
And it's about the USS Salem.
Okay.
How many times have you been on her?
A lot, yeah. But so back when I worked on it, I worked on the USS Salem for a Halloween attraction back in 2016. So I was on it pretty much every 3 nights a week or 4 nights a week with the USS Salem during the haunted season, and then I've been back probably at least like 3 or 4 times a year. Good for about the time I worked with Don DeCristofaro. I don't know if yeah, he's a great guy. He's sort of like the go-to person for the USS Salem. But one of the shows that I did, which was Most Terrifying Places, recounted sort of like my experience on the USS Salem, and it was one of those locations that just that never disappointed. There was always something happening on it, and it was really intensified during the Halloween season.
What would you say would be the most haunted section of that ship?
Well, it's really different depending on the day. So it's there's not one location. So when we were doing the haunted attraction there, we actually set up the seance room in a location which was the captain's quarters, which was not active at all.
Right.
And it became active during the Halloween season. So I think pretty much wherever there's the spirits, they're not bound in a specific location on the ship. I would say that the butter room, which is the area supposedly where the bodies were kept during the Ionian earthquake, that area, my first apparition on the ship was a young child right above the butter area, and I'm guessing she was like a Greek girl. So the area where the Greeks were kept during the earthquakes, I feel like that's a really active area too, which is I think the third mess hall is the area that I always have things happen at that location.
How long she been in the docks now?
I'm not 100% sure I mean, it never saw battles. It just actually served as a triage vessel post World War II.
Okay.
Yeah, she's been. I mean, so she has been. She's a museum, so she actually is a naval museum, and so it also has been in Quincy for many years now. It's changed docks. It's actually back to the original dock where it was built I'm assuming it's in 1930s or 1940s.
Yeah, it would be probably the late 40s.
Yeah, because it was built. It's a heavy metal cruiser. I'll make sure I say that correctly, because it's not. It looks like a battleship, but it's actually a little smaller than a battleship.
Yeah, but they were made to go ahead and take the place of the battleships.
Right. Yeah, and it was built. It was definitely. It's a beaut. It's of course. It's had a lot of wear and tear over the years, and it's great about having the paranormal on the ship, on the vessel, to be able to raise money for repairs, because it's much needed. But it was definitely at its time, it was a great vessel.
Just to jump in, it was commissioned in 1949.
Commission. Okay, so yeah, 40s. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I haven't because when I was on the vessel was 2016, so I'm a little fuzzy with my history on it. But yeah, it's definitely a vessel that never saw battle, but definitely saw a lot of death.
Oh, that's amazing that you got to be on there, because that's one of the heavy hitters that I have always wanted to go ahead and be on. To get on.
I highly recommend, Greg, to visit the U.S. of Salem and the Greater Boston Paranormal Associates. They do run investigations on the ship now. Great group of people. A lot of people that I've worked with in the past, and I highly recommend going and even whether it's on one of their investigations, or if you're rent out, you can actually do a private investigation as well.
And you do an overnight, right?
You can do it. I mean, well, the thing is, it's not really made to do an overnight, because it's the beds aren't very comfortable. I think if you did do an overnight, it would be it would have to be someone from the group would have to be with you, because it's a museum too.
So aren't there a couple guys on there too that are from New Jersey?
I don't know. I mean,
his name is just up here, and it just slipped away. And I was just and he had been on my show now about maybe a year ago. And he's a great guy, and he's close friends to Ken DaCosta, and those guys, him and George Lopez. I don't know if you know who George Lopez is from down in Florida.
Yeah, I know who they are. But yeah, I mean, so Don DeCristofaro is based in Quincy. He's the one that runs Greater Boston Paranormal Associates, and they're the ones that run the paranormal investigations on the ship. Now, other people may actually rent out the vessel, but I'm not sure who those people are.
That's awesome. So it's been a pleasure having you on. That's for sure. I know you probably have some things to catch up on before your busy schedule tomorrow.
So this weekend I'm going to be at the Hanover Tavern Paracon. This is right outside of Richmond. I highly recommend, if you're in the area, please stop by and say hello. And I'm actually not speaking at this Paracon, but I have books with me, and I'll be able signing books all day, and I'll be part of the investigation tomorrow night at this location I've never investigated before. So I'm really excited about being here.
Well, that's going to be a blast. Well, have a great time, Sam.
Thank you.
For sure. It's going to be, and thank you for being here. And thank you, Becky, for joining.
Becky, it's really good to see you, and please
Definitely.
keep me posted what's going on. Okay.
Well, we'll
I will
stay.
for
We'll hang
sure.
around for about
Definitely.
5 minutes at the end of this.
Okay, great.
But I just want to say good night to everybody. Thanks for being here, and thanks for coming up with a great show. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and have my producer. Are you going to shut it down, Brandon? Thank you.